Good morning, boys and girls. Today we continue with integers. This is Simon Mapanga doing integers with you today. And we've done already our first lesson. I hope you understood that, and I hope with this lesson you will find it very, very interesting. However, today we're doing mainly calculations with integers. And here we're focusing on squares of integers. So you must know how to find the square, all right? You still remember what is a square? You must know how to find what? A square root. Remember, a square, the opposite of squaring is square root. Then also finding cubes, all right, as well as cube roots. Now, I want to just start with our examples. The first one is looking at what is negative 3 squared plus 4 squared. I know you know that when you square a number, you multiply it by itself twice, right? But remember, this is a negative number. So, what is it going to be? Please remember, the negative 3 squared, it's not the same as in brackets negative 3 all squared. Just remember that. So in other words, if it's in brackets, then it's 2 of the negative 3 squared. So I've got a what? I've got a negative number multiplied by a negative number, which is negative 3 times negative 3, which is a positive and 9. But in this case, what do we do? So this is going to be a negative 9 plus what? Plus 16. You got it. Then finally we have, what is negative 9 plus 16? Yes, you're right. It is a 7. By the way, I showed you how you can do this on a calculator. Just go through it once again with you. All right. We've got what? You've got, let's clear it up. You've got a negative 3 squared plus a 4 squared. What does that equals? You see that? It equals a 7. Good. Now, we can check this up. Although we can obviously, I'm just going to say you've got a negative 9 plus 16 equals 7. If we check this up, it's going to be, let's see, the answer is a 7. So I'm going to say 7, right? Plus what? Plus what's the additive inverse of positive 16? It's a negative 16, okay? And definitely the answer is a negative 9, okay? Don't forget how to check your work. Then the next example, you've got a negative 5 squared. Now you can see the difference. A negative 5 squared in brackets is going to be a positive what? 25. Subtract 2 squared is 4. And we have, yes, 21. All right? Now let's check this work. Excuse me for that. So we're going to have, if we check this work, we're going to have 21. What's the additive inverse of negative 4? It's a positive 4. It's equals to 25. Yes. The next one, now we've got brackets. We've got to use the distributive law. But let's see if it's 2 squared, it's a 4, open brackets, 3 squared, it's a 9, subtract. Be careful of that. It's a negative 5 all squared. If you square a negative number, you get what? You get a positive number, which is 5 squared is 25. Right. Now, we can distribute 4 into 9 as well as into, okay? So, that'll be 4 multiplied by a 9. Close brackets. Subtract 4 multiplied by 25. By the way, we could have simply said 4 times, what is 9? Subtract 25. Yes, It's a negative 16. Finally, what is 4 times a 16? Yes, negative 64 as the final answer. So that is one way of doing it. Now let's show it this way. We say 4 times 9 is what? It is a 36. Subtract what? 4 times 25, it's 100. And then, what is 36 subtract 100? You got it? Same as 64. Okay, so you can do it the way where we distribute the 4 into the brackets and we come to negative 64. Or we could have just simply said, we know inside the brackets, Bodmer says we do what's in the brackets. 9 subtract 25 gives you negative 16. We multiply it with a 4 and it gives us negative 64. So it's the same. Wonderful. Now, the last one. Is there a last one? No. The next part, I want you to do these activities on your own, and I want to apply yourself very, very effectively. Do your work so that you can understand. From the examples we have done, now it's time for you to attempt it by yourself. Okay, just a few more minutes. Take down your activities. Right. I know you've got it right, and I trust you. You did the right thing. However, let me check if your work is correct. I may not check all of this, and we might even use a calculator to just verify what our answers were. If you look at the first one, we've got a negative 9 squared. By now you know this 9 squared is not inside the bracket, so it's going to remain being negative. And what is 9 squared? It is 81. Good. Then we go to plus. Now, you see this negative 9 is in the brackets. So it's a negative 9 times a negative 9. This means what? Negative 9 multiplied by negative 9. Now, what is a negative 9 times a negative 9? It is equals to a positive 81. Good. So What is a negative 81 plus a positive 81? Definitely sure. It gives us a 0. Okay, good. Next one. You've got a negative 4 squared and subtracting a negative 8 all squared in brackets. Right, we've mentioned this again. It's a negative what? Negative 16. Remember that? Subtract what? Subtract a negative. Let's just do that. What is negative 8 squared? It's a positive 64, right? Then two negative numbers. What is it going to be? Yes, you're right. It's going to be a negative 80. Wonderful. We can check this on the calculator. Let's see if we get the right answer. So we write down, it's a, let's clear it first, negative 4 squared, subtract, open brackets, negative 8, close bracket, squared. Now the calculator doesn't give us many steps. It gives us the final answer, which is a negative 80. So you can check your answer there as well. Wonderful. Right. Then the next one is to do the next exercise. C, right? Now there, we've got a negative outside the bracket. Now we've got to work within the brackets. Remember, Bodmer says we must work within the brackets. So we've got a negative into what? 6 squared is 36. 4 squared, 16, right? Then negative 4 all squared in brackets. If you square a negative number, you get what? Positive 16 in this case. Right. So let's work within the brackets. This must be added first before we can put the negative side. So we're going to still keep the negative, which is outside, and then if you add the 2 inside, what do we get? Yes, you're right. You get 52 plus positive 16. And this is the same as negative 52 plus 16, which will be, running out of space here. All right, so we can just say 12 minus 6 is what? It's a 6, and you say 4 minus 1 is a 3. Okay, let's check if that is correct. We can verify that, of course. We've got, from the start, we can even check at any point in this problem. Let's have a look up there. With a calculator, let's verify. Oh, sorry, by the way, it's negative 36. Sorry for that. Then let's just verify this. We've got a negative, clear that up, a negative open bracket into 6 squared, right? 6 squared plus 4 squared. Then we close brackets, close bracket, right. Then we add open brackets, negative 4, close bracket, all squared. All right. Wow, we got it. Negative 36. Great job. Right. Now, you can see that we need to be very careful how we do these integers in terms of the square, and also don't forget your sign, as well as working with Bodmer's, working within the brackets, and then from then onwards, we continue with the rest of the other operations. Then the next problem, we've got a negative 3 multiplied by, in brackets, negative 5 squared times negative 8 squared. Let's have a look at this. Remember, the negative is outside the bracket. This is not inside the bracket. So it's going to be what? It's just going to be a negative 9. Multiply. Let's work within the brackets here. Minus 5 squared gives us a negative 25 multiplied by what? A negative what? Negative 64. Right. Now we're going to put this in bracket because we don't want to confuse the multiplication and the negative there. All right, anyway, negative 9 plus, we can just verify that with calculator. What is 25? So the negative 25 multiplied by open brackets and negative 64 close brackets. All right. Wow, what a big number. Well, not so big. 1600. So we've got 1,600. Now, what is 9 multiplied by that? So we multiply our answer by a negative 9. By a negative 9. Open brackets. Come on. Negative 9. Close brackets. Right. Finally, negative 14,400. Let's check that again. 14,400. Good. Right. So we could have started off with a calculator. Let's see how would that have worked out to be. If we just said, what is a negative 3? Sorry for that. Negative 3 squared multiplied, open brackets, negative, don't run away, negative 5, it's squared, times negative 8 squared. All right, we need to keep that in brackets, so I'm just going to go back there so that we don't confuse that. And negative, right, one moment, let's delete what? Delete that negative, no, it's fine, 8 squared, close brackets, and then we close brackets again, okay? Right, good. Now the calculator straight away gives us the answer, which is negative 14,400 there. Great. Then the last one. So the last one, we've got a negative 6 squared outside. Remember, if it is a negative squared, negative 6 all squared, it means it includes the negative sign. So you square the negative sign, and then that will be what? So a negative multiplied by negative will be a positive 36 outside the bracket. Negative 7 squared, it's a negative 49. Subtract 7 squared, it's 49. What is this? This is the same 36 multiplied by negative 49, subtract 49. That gives us what? It gives us a negative 98. Right. Then, what is 36? Remember, if there's no sign there, it's multiplication. So we're going to check this with the calculator quickly. We're going to say, what is 36 multiplied by, open brackets, negative 98, close brackets, equals to. Let's check that again. Negative 36 multiplied by negative 98. Yes, negative 3528. 3528. That's the final answer. Okay, I hope you got those correct, because it's very, very important that you get them correct right now. All right? Good. Now, the next part is the part that we just need to explain to you how now to deal with your square roots. Okay? How to deal with what? With the square roots, right? Now, you know what's the square root of 1. What's the square root of 1? Remember, the opposite of finding a square is finding a square root. All right. So instead of multiplying the number by itself, we find the square root of the number that has been multiplied by itself. Now, this is going to be what? Square root of 1, it's negative. They've got a 1, then subtract. Square root of 81, it is what? Yes, it is a 9. Finally, what's the answer? This is going to be negative, subtract 9, negative 10. Good. Then the next exercise, right. Now you see in this case, we're finding the square root and also finding the square again. So we're going to start first of all by finding the square of a negative 5. So we still have the square root, but there's a negative 5 all squared. That is going to be 25. Then, open brackets. What is the square root of 81? Remember that, it's 9. Before we can find the square root, we still need to work in underneath the square root, which we've got a negative 2 all squared. That is going to be what? A negative 2 all squared. Remember, the negative is inside the bracket, so that is going to be a 4. Close bracket. You get it? Good. Square root of 25 is a 5. We still have a 9. Square root of a 4, it's a 2. So, therefore, we've got 5 multiplied by 11. Finally, our answer is a 55. Great. Right. Now, those were the 2 examples I've put up for you. Very simple ones. Now, I'm going to ask you to work out these ones as your activities for this part of our lesson. Okay? Now, just get your pen quickly, get a page, start writing down the following activities. Thank you very much. Right. Well done, boys and girls. I'm hoping you got it right, and I'm hoping you are just excited to see what your answers will be. Now, we're going to go to the next, the first one. We're saying, what is the square root of 81? Subtract the square root of 25. You should know your square roots by heart, eh? Right. So, square root of 81, we know is going to be 9, right? Subtract what? Subtract square root of 25, which is, yes, it's 5. And finally, your answer is going to be 4. Well done. Then the next one, we've got negative you got a square root of a negative 10 in bracket all squared plus a square root of 9. So you've got a negative outside the bracket, square root of. Inside the bracket, what is the square of a negative 10? It's going to be what? Remember, we're squaring the negative as well. So it's going to be 100. Sorry for that. It's going to be 100. Let's just rewrite it again. Square root of 100 plus square root of 9. That we can do already. It's going to be a 3. And that will be, what is the square root of 100? We still have a negative outside. So that's going to be a negative 10 plus a 3. Finally, we get a negative 7. Well done. I hope you got it right. Then the next one, we've got in the square root. Remember the difference now. With a problem like this one, you work separately with your square roots. Find the square root of 81. Find the square root of 25. After finding the square roots, then only you subtract. But with this kind, we have to subtract first. So we still keep our square roots, right? Still keep the square root. So what is 25? Subtract a 16. 25 subtract 16 is going to be a 9. So what's the square root of 9? Wonderful. I hope you got that right. Square root of a 9 is a 3. Okay, the next problem, we're having a square root. So the square root outside still remains. Let's work within the underneath the square root. What is a square root? A square of a negative 3 all squared in bracket there. So we know that we are squaring even the negative included. So that would be a 9. Subtract. What's the square root of 25? That's a 5. Very simple, huh? Good. Then still we keep our square root. 9 subtract a 5. It gives us a 4. Finally, what's the square root of 4? It's a 2. Well done. Right. Well done. We've got a last one to do down there. Then once again, we're saying you've got a square root outside. Let's work within underneath it there. Square of 9 is 81. Subtract. What's the square of a negative 12? A negative 12 all squared will be, we still have the negative sign there, but remember we are squaring a negative number, so we're going to get positive, which will be 144. Then let's subtract first before we find the square root. What do we get over there? What is 81 subtract 144? I think it's going to be a negative 63. Wow. Now what does this mean? We've got a negative 63 underneath the square root. Can we find the square root of negative 63? What do you think? If you find it with the calculator, what do you get? What does the calculator say? Now, there is an answer for, or rather a number that would be how you represent a negative 63. It is some kind of a number, but we don't know that number yet. But we found it to be negative 63. For now, you will deal with those type of numbers later on, okay? For now, we won't be able to find it, so we just leave our answer as it is right there. Very interesting, isn't it? How do you find the square root of a number? Go and find out. See what your calculator tells you. Okay, but later on, you'll come across numbers which are called non-real numbers, which includes such things as the negative square root of, like in this case, negative 63. Sharp. Now, we're going to go on to the next part, which looks now at the cubes, okay? Now, what is a cube? A cube is when you multiply the same number by itself thrice. With a square, you multiply the same number twice by itself. If it's a square of 9, then it's 9 times 9. But if it's a cube of 9, it's 9 times 9 times 9. Right? That's the difference. So let's look up on the board. We are cubing integers. Be careful. In this case, if you are cubing a negative number, be aware that, let's use that as an example. We've got a negative 2 times a negative 2 times a negative 2. So it's negative 2 multiplied thrice. It's 3 by itself. So it's not multiplied by 3, by the way. I may just correct myself there. It's actually the same number, and it's multiplied in this thing thrice. But you say 2, -2, times a -2 times a -2. Now, this is going to be, if you were to do it slowly, you're going to probably say -2 multiplied by -2 gives you a +4. That's nothing wrong with that. But that +4 has to still be multiplied. So I just did this part here first, okay? And it gave me this. But now I still got to continue. What is a 4 times a -2? That now gives me a -8. So can you see? When you cube a negative number, that's what you get. So we now know that this is going to be a -8 plus. Now what's this? This, does it mean the same thing as that? Probably yes. Let's check it out. Just briefly, it's a -2 times a -2 times a -2. What's a -2 times a -2? It's a +4 multiplied by -2. Okay? A positive number times a negative number, it gives us what? Yes, a -8. Wow, it's the same. So this here will get us a -8 again. Now I'm adding here 2 negative numbers. I'm adding a -8 to another -8. So finally, the answer is going to be -16. Great. Sorry for that. It's a -16 down there. Right, that's our first example. Okay, now let's look at the next one. The next one is dealing with cube rooting, finding a cube root. A cube root of 27. Cube root. We have a negative here. Now you must know that the opposite of finding a cube, the opposite of that is what? Finding a cube root. Right. Now you know that the square of 2 is 4. But the square root of 4 is what? It's a 2. Similarly, the cube of 3 is 3 times 3 times 3. Right? Right? 3 times 3 times 3. Which is what? 27. But now, what's the cube root of 27? It's what? It is a 3. Which is what? 3 cubed. Okay? Now, anyway, that was just to illustrate what's the comparison between the cube as well as the cube root. So I know that if I want to find a cube root of 27, I ask myself, which number do I multiply by itself thrice and it gives me 27? And the answer is a 3 plus. In this case, we've got cube root inside or under the square. That's the cube root sign is, you've got now a -3 cubed. So that will be a negative what? A -3 times 3 times 3, which is a 27. I've still got a -3 over here, then plus what? Right. What is the cube root of -27? It is a what? It is a -3. Okay. Then finally, I'll put this in bracket. We've got a -3, add a -3, and we've got a -6 as your answer. Okay. Well, with those two examples, I'm going to ask you now to try and attempt the next few activities for yourself. Okay? Now, I know, when you talk about cube roots, you say, hey, this is too difficult. No, it's not so difficult. Remember, in this case, you say 3 times 3 times 3. And you must remember your cubes and your cube roots, right? For example, cube root of 2 is 8. So there's a cube of 2 is 8. Cube of 3 is what? 27. What about the cube of 4? 64. It's cube of 5, 125. Cube of 6, 216. You must know how to calculate those, right? Good. Now, with those comments, can you now do your activity? Thank you. I know you were struggling. I know you were finding this very hard, but I know some of you may have got it right. Now let's continue. Let's work this one together, all of us. Now, look up on the board. Some of them are easier, some of them are not. In this case, we have mixed your cubed and your square. So here on this one, you're finding the cube of 4, right? 4 times 4 times 4. I know you know what it is. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 4 is what? Yes, it is negative 64 plus, well, this one is very easy, man. It's 36. Now back to the integers again. Negative 64 plus 36. Well, by the way, you can check it out with the calculator. What the heck? So you're going to say negative 64 plus 36. Wow, very easy. Negative 28 as your answer. Right, I'm hoping you got that one right. Then the next one, what is a negative 7 cubed? Check that out. Negative 7, okay, let's clear that up. Negative 7 cubed. All right, let's see how we're going to do that. And let's just, yeah, okay. So we know that is negative 343. Negative 343 plus, in bracket, 4 cubed is, excuse me, young ladies, it's young boys and girls, negative 343 there, plus 4 cubed is 64, plus, I'm sure you know this one, it's a negative 27, close bracket yet again. Right. Now, let's see. We need a little bit of space. All right. Anyway, let's see. Go down a bit. Now, if you look there, let's work within the brackets. We still keep the negative 343. Inside the bracket, we go to 64. Subtract 27. By the way, there's a positive. You add that there. Thank you very much. Then we can just simply say, what is this? It's negative 343 plus, if you subtract that, you get a 7, and then you get 5 minus 2 is 3, right? Now, we can check this out with the calculator. We can still do this, but you can check with the calculator. We got negative 343, and then we add, let's put it on this side, negative 343 is already on the screen of the calculator. Add that to 37, right? 7 over there. That gives us 306. Wow, that was quite a tough one. Negative 306. Can you see how much I'm battling here? Right, now, let's go down a bit. Let's look at the next problem. Now, this one is square root, so a cube root of 64. By the way, I told you you must know how your cubes go like, and in this case, we know it's going to be 4 plus. Now, be careful over here. We need to work what is within the brackets. But in this case, you know that when you are cube rooting and you are also cubing inside, the cube root and the cube can cancel each other, right? So in this case, we know what our answer is going to be. All right? You can just simply say that is going to be n negative 5. And what is 4? Subtract 5. It's a negative 1. Okay. And we can check it with the calculator, of course. Very important. All right. Leave that alone. We can say, what is, let's go to that one, see where it is. Where are we looking at now? Okay, boys and girls, let's have a look there. Okay, yes, we have it. Right, so we're going to say, let's clear the screen first. Clear the screen. Cube root of 64. Then we say plus cube root of open bracket negative 5, close bracket, it's cubed. All right, there we are. Are you happy? What's the answer? Straight to the point, it gives us a negative 1. Wonderful. Now, let's go down. Not the last one, almost the second last. What is the cube root of 1331? That's a negative 11. What is the cube root of 1,000? That is a 10. So negative 11, negative 10. What is that? Negative 21. Good. You can check it out with the calculator as well. And lastly, what is the cube root of 216? Remember, it's negative. Therefore, negative 6. Open bracket. We've got what's the cube root of a cube root, or of a cube. So the cube root and the cube will cancel out. I'm left with a negative 3 plus, what is the cube root of negative 125? It is a negative 5. I'm going to keep this in bracket. And all in bracket, negative 6 into, what is a negative 3 plus a negative 5? It's a negative 8. Finally, what is negative 6 multiplied by 8? You got it? It's going to be what? It's going to be a positive 48. Good. Right? Then, let's go to the next one. In this one, we're looking at the homework now. Boys and girls, we've come to the end of our lesson. In order for you to understand this work, you've got to do your homework. Very important. Because then, how do you know it? Thank you very much. From me, Sci-Bono Discovery GD channel coming from Mindset Studios. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.